You know the answer, you understand the question. The words are somewhere inside your mind, but the moment someone looks at you and waits for your response, everything disappears. Your heart speeds up, your mouth becomes tense, and even the easiest sentence feels impossible. Then the conversation ends, and suddenly all the words return. This does not mean your English is weak. It means pressure is blocking the English you already know. In this training, you will learn how to break that freeze response, recover your words quickly, and speak with a calm, clear, confident voice. Chapter 1. The real reason your mind goes blank. Imagine that someone asks you a simple question. What did you do last weekend? You have answered this question many times during English practice. You know the words weekend, visited, stayed, watched, went, and friends. You understand the grammar. You can probably write a good answer in less than a minute. But when the question comes unexpectedly in a real conversation, your mind suddenly feels empty. You begin searching for the perfect opening. You wonder whether you should use the past simple or the present perfect. You become worried about pronunciation. You notice the other person waiting. You imagine that they are judging your English. Every second feels longer than it really is. Finally, you say, nothing, even though you had many things you could have shared. The problem was not a lack of knowledge. The problem was that too many mental tasks were happening at the same time. You were trying to remember vocabulary, choose grammar, organize your story, pronounce every word correctly, observe the listener's reaction, and avoid making a mistake. Your mind was not simply answering a question. It was attempting to control every part of the conversation at once. That is why freezing often happens to serious learners. You have spent years learning rules. You have been trained to notice errors. You may have completed grammar exercises in which every sentence had only one correct answer. This can slowly create the belief that speaking must also be correct before it can be expressed. But real conversation does not work like a grammar test. In a test, you can stop, examine the options, erase something, and try again. In conversation, language is moving. The other person is speaking, reacting, asking, smiling, changing the subject, and waiting for your contribution. Speaking requires movement, not perfection. When you try to make every sentence perfect before saying it, you interrupt that movement. You stand at the beginning of the sentence and refuse to take the first step until you can see the entire path. A confident speaker does not always see the entire path. A confident speaker begins with what is available and builds the message while speaking. Suppose someone asks, "Why are you learning English?" A frozen learner may search for an impressive answer. I am learning English because it is an internationally recognized language that provides numerous professional and academic opportunities. That answer is possible, but it places a heavy burden on the mind. A freer speaker may begin, "I'm learning English mainly for my career." Now the conversation has started. The speaker can continue, "I want to work with international companies." Then, "I also want to travel more confidently." The complete answer was not prepared before the first sentence. It was created one clear piece at a time. This is one of the first truths you must accept. You do not need to prepare the whole answer before opening your mouth. You only need a strong first step. Freezing is also connected to self-observation. When you speak your native language, most of your attention is on your meaning. You think about the story, the situation, the person, or the idea. You are not constantly watching your lips, checking your grammar, and measuring your performance. In English, however, your attention may turn inward. You begin listening to yourself too carefully. Was that correct? Did I pronounce that word properly? Should I use another tense? Do I sound intelligent? This creates two versions of you inside the same conversation. One version is trying to communicate. The other version is acting like a strict examiner. The examiner interrupts the speaker. Every time the speaker tries to continue, the examiner says, "Wait, check that, change this, that sounded wrong." Soon, the speaker becomes silent. Your first goal is not to destroy the examiner. Your goal is to give it a new working schedule. During study time, you can examine your grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. You can review errors and improve details. During speaking time, communication must lead. Study mode asks, "Is every part correct?" Speaking mode asks, "Can the other person understand my message?" Those are different questions. You need both modes, but they should not control you at the same moment. Many learners also freeze because they believe confidence must come before speaking. They tell themselves, when my vocabulary improves, I will speak confidently. When my pronunciation becomes clearer, I will join conversations. When I stop making grammar mistakes, I will feel ready. But confidence is usually not the entrance requirement. Confidence is the result of repeated participation. You do not become confident and then begin speaking. You begin speaking in small, manageable situations, and those experiences slowly create confidence. Think about learning to drive. A new driver does not wait until they feel completely relaxed before entering the car. They begin carefully. Their movements may feel unnatural. They think about every mirror, pedal, signal, and turn. After enough practice, many actions become automatic. Speaking develops in a similar way. At first, you may need to think about the opening sentence. You may need to use simple vocabulary. You may pause more often. But each real attempt teaches your mind that speaking English is an activity you can survive and complete. You are not trying to prove that you are already fluent. You are training fluency through participation. Another source of freezing is the expectation of speed. You may compare yourself with native speakers, advanced learners, teachers, presenters, or people who have used English for many years. They seem to answer immediately, so you assume that you must do the same. But fast speaking is not always strong. A person can speak quickly and communicate poorly. Another person can speak calmly, pause naturally, and express a clear message. The goal is not to remove every pause. The goal is to stop treating every pause as an emergency. Silence is part of real conversation. Native speakers pause, they search for words, they restart sentences. They use phrases such as, "Let me think," "How can I explain this?" "What I'm trying to say is, I'm not sure how to describe it." These expressions are not signs of failure. They are tools that keep communication alive while the speaker organizes the next idea. You need to stop interpreting a short delay as proof that your English has disappeared. Your English has not disappeared. Your mind simply needs a moment to reach it. From now on, when you feel yourself freezing, do not say inside your mind, "I can't speak English." Say, "My mind is under pressure. I need to reduce the pressure," and begin with one simple sentence. That new interpretation is powerful because it gives you an action. "I can't speak" closes the door. "I need one simple sentence" opens it. Let us practice. Imagine that I ask, "What kind of music do you enjoy?" Do not build a long answer. Do not search for advanced vocabulary. Begin with one clear sentence. "I mostly enjoy calm music." Now add one reason. "It helps me relax after a busy day." Now add an example. "I usually listen to it while I'm working or traveling." You have created a natural answer with 3 manageable pieces. Now try another question. What is something you want to improve this year? Begin simply. "I want to improve my communication skills." Add a reason. "Sometimes I understand people, but I find it difficult to express my ideas quickly." Add a future action. "So I'm practicing speaking more regularly." This is how you move out of the freeze response. You do not force yourself to create a perfect speech. You build a message in layers. The next time your mind goes blank, remember what is really happening. You have not lost your English. You are carrying too many instructions at once. Release the need to sound perfect. Stop trying to control the complete answer. Choose one useful thought and give it a simple shape. Your voice does not need permission from perfection. It needs a beginning. Chapter 2. Take control of the first 5 seconds. The most difficult part of many conversations is not the whole answer, it is the beginning. Once you say the first sentence, your mind often becomes more active. One idea connects to another. Vocabulary begins to return. Your breathing becomes calmer because the silence has been broken. But before the first sentence, pressure can grow quickly. Someone asks you a question. 1 second passes. Then 2. You think, "I should answer now." Another second passes. You feel the listener waiting. Now you are not only searching for an answer, you are also worrying about how long you have been silent. That extra pressure can create a complete freeze. This is why you need a system for the first 5 seconds. You should not leave the beginning of every answer to chance. You can prepare flexible openings that work in many situations. These phrases give your voice something to do while your mind organizes the main message. For example, "That's an interesting question. I haven't thought about that before. The first thing that comes to mind is, I would probably say, from my experience, I think there are two sides to this. Let me think about the best way to explain it. These phrases are not empty decorations. They create time without creating uncomfortable silence. Suppose someone asks, do you think people depend too much on technology? You may not have a complete opinion ready. Instead of becoming silent, begin. That's an interesting question. I think there are two sides to it. You now have several extra seconds to decide what those two sides are. You can continue. Technology makes daily life much easier, but it can also make people less independent. Then add an example. For instance, many people use their phones for directions even in places they visit regularly. You did not have this full answer before you started. The opening helped you enter the subject. Now imagine someone asks, what would you change about your city? You can begin. The first thing that comes to mind is public transport. Then explain, I would make it more reliable because many people spend too much time waiting or sitting in traffic. Again, the answer grows after the opening. You need to create several opening phrases that feel natural in your mouth. Do not memorize 20 expressions at once. Choose 3 or 4 and use them repeatedly until they become automatic. A useful group might be, I would probably say, the main reason is, for example, what I mean is, these 4 phrases can support hundreds of answers. Consider this question, what makes a good friend? I would probably say honesty. The main reason is that trust is difficult to build without it. For example, a good friend should be able to tell you the truth respectfully. What I mean is that real friendship is not only about agreeing with each other. The phrases create a structure. You do not have to invent the shape of the answer while also inventing the content. This reduces pressure. One of the strongest structures for everyday speaking is point, reason, example. First, state your main point. Second, explain why you think so. Third, give a real or imagined example. Question. Is it better to study alone or with other people? Point. I usually prefer studying alone. Reason. I can concentrate better and control my own pace. Example. For example, if I need more time on a difficult topic, I don't feel pressure to move forward too quickly. That is already a complete answer. You can also use situation, action, result. This is useful for telling short stories. Question. Tell me about a difficult problem you solved. Situation. A few months ago, I had to complete an important project in a very short time. Action. I divided the work into small tasks and focused on the most urgent parts first. Result. I finished it on time and I learned that planning is more useful than panicking. You do not need complicated language to tell a strong story. You need a clear order. Another useful structure is past, present, future. Question. How has your English changed? Past. In the past, I understood basic English, but I was afraid to speak. Present. Now I can express more ideas, although I still hesitate sometimes. Future. My next goal is to speak more naturally without preparing every sentence. These structures work because your mind no longer has to solve 2 problems. Without a structure, you must decide what to say and how to organize it. With a structure, the organization already exists. You only need to place your ideas inside it. Now we need to discuss the difference between a natural pause and a disappearing pause. A natural pause has direction. You may say, let me think about that. Then you search for one useful idea. A disappearing pause has no direction. You become silent and begin asking yourself many questions. What grammar should I use? Do I know enough vocabulary? What answer does this person expect? Why am I taking so long? The first pause helps you prepare. The second pause increases confusion. When you pause, give your mind one job. Ask yourself, what is my main point? Not 5 questions, 1 question. Suppose someone asks, would you rather live in a large city or a small town? Your mind should not search for the perfect, complete answer. Ask, what is my main choice? A small town. Now say it. I would probably choose a small town. Next question, why? Because I prefer a quieter lifestyle. Now say it. I would probably choose a small town because I prefer a quieter lifestyle. Then add detail. I like having less traffic, less noise, and more space. The answer develops logically. You can train this skill with what we will call the 5-second response exercise. Choose 10 common questions. You can use questions about work, travel, food, education, family, habits, goals, technology, health, or daily life. Read one question. Give yourself no more than 5 seconds to begin speaking. You do not have to finish the answer within 5 seconds. You only have to start. Your opening may be, I think, I would say, in my experience. The main reason is, once you begin, continue for 20 or 30 seconds. Here are some practice questions. What is the best way to spend a free evening? Do you prefer planning everything or being spontaneous? What skill would you like to learn? Should children have their own phones? What makes a workplace enjoyable? Is traveling more valuable than buying expensive things? What habit has improved your life? What is one problem in modern education? What kind of environment helps you focus? What advice would you give your younger self? The goal is not to produce brilliant opinions. The goal is to make the beginning feel normal. At first, some answers will sound weak. That is acceptable. You are training movement. You can improve the language later. Another useful exercise is the same opening, different subjects practice. Take one phrase. The first thing that comes to mind is, use it with several questions. What food reminds you of childhood? The first thing that comes to mind is my grandmother's cooking. What would you improve about your home? The first thing that comes to mind is the amount of natural light. What helps you recover from stress? The first thing that comes to mind is taking a quiet walk. What is an important quality in a leader? The first thing that comes to mind is the ability to listen. When an opening becomes familiar, it requires very little mental effort. That leaves more attention available for your message. You should also prepare recovery openings for moments when you do not immediately understand the question. You can say, could you say that one more time? Could you rephrase the question? Do you mean? I understood the first part, but could you repeat the last part? Are you asking about my personal experience or my general opinion? These expressions prevent misunderstanding from becoming panic. You are allowed to manage the conversation. Many learners behave as though they must accept every question exactly as it arrives and answer immediately. But conversation is cooperative. You can ask for repetition. You can confirm the topic. You can take a moment. Strong communication is not the ability to answer everything instantly. It is the ability to keep the exchange clear and alive. Your next conversation does not need to begin with a perfect sentence. It needs an entrance. Prepare your entrances. Practice them until they feel natural. Use them to control the first 5 seconds. When you control the beginning, the rest of the answer becomes easier to build. Chapter 3. Stop building every sentence through translation. Many learners believe they are thinking in English because they know English words. But when they speak, their real process looks like this. First, they create the complete message in their native language. Then they search for English vocabulary. Next, they change the grammar. After that, they check the word order. Finally, they try to pronounce the sentence. This process may work during writing because writing gives you time. In fast conversation, it creates a traffic jam. Your idea is ready, but it must pass through too many mental gates before it reaches your mouth. The solution is not to force yourself to think about nothing in your native language. That is unrealistic, especially when you are still developing your English. The goal is to create more direct connections between meaning and English. When you see a cup, you should not always need to think of the word in another language before reaching cup. When you feel tired, the sentence, I need some rest, should come as one complete unit, not as 5 separate translation decisions. This is why speaking in chunks is so important. A chunk is a group of words that frequently appears together and communicates one useful function. For example, I'm not sure. It depends on. As far as I know, the main problem is, I didn't expect that. I'm looking forward to. It took me a while to. One thing I've noticed is, these expressions should not feel like grammar puzzles. They should become complete tools. When you say, it depends on, you do not need to decide separately which preposition comes after depends. The words arrive together. When you say, I'm looking forward to, You are not building the phrase word by word. You are using a ready-made language block. Fluent speakers depend heavily on these blocks. They are not creating every sentence from zero. Imagine trying to build a house while producing each brick by hand at the same time. The work would be extremely slow. Chunks are prepared bricks. You still decide what kind of house you want to build, but the basic pieces are ready. Consider the question, do you enjoy working from home? Instead of translating a complete answer, begin with a chunk. It depends on the kind of work. Then another. One thing I like about it is the flexibility. Then another. The main disadvantage is that it can feel isolating. Your answer develops through English patterns rather than through complete translation. You can train this by creating speaking families. A speaking family is a group of expressions connected to one function. For giving opinions, I think, I believe, from my perspective, the way I see it, my personal view is, for adding ideas. Another point is, on top of that, there is also something else to consider is, for giving examples. For example, for instance, a good example would be, to give you an example, for clarifying, what I mean is, in other words, to put it more simply, let me explain that differently, for contrasting. However, on the other hand, at the same time, even though that is true, for uncertainty, I'm not completely sure, but, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but my understanding is that you do not need to memorize these as a long vocabulary list. Choose a small number that matches your personality and use them in real answers. The purpose is not to sound formal or advanced. The purpose is to make language available under pressure. Another way to reduce translation is to connect English with images, situations, and physical actions. When you learn the expression, I'm running late, do not only connect it to a translation. Imagine looking at the time, moving quickly, and sending someone a message. When you learn that slipped my mind, imagine suddenly remembering something you forgot. When you learn I'm getting used to it, imagine a new job, a new city, or a new routine becoming easier over time. Meaning becomes stronger when it has a scene. Words that only live on a vocabulary page can be difficult to retrieve. Words connected to a situation are easier to activate. Let us practice with the phrase, I ended up. This phrase is useful when the final result was different from the original plan. Imagine you planned to study, but a friend visited. I planned to study, but I ended up talking with my friend for 2 hours. Imagine you wanted to cook, but you were too tired. I was going to cook, but I ended up ordering food. Imagine you only wanted to watch one short video. I opened the website for one video, but I ended up watching 5. Now the phrase is not an abstract grammar structure. It has several living situations attached to it. Try the phrase, I'm not used to waking up this early. I'm not used to speaking in front of large groups. I'm not used to such cold weather. I'm not used to working in complete silence. Each example strengthens the direct link between the phrase and its meaning. You should also learn vocabulary through personal sentences. General examples are useful, but personal examples create deeper memories. Suppose you learn the word overwhelmed. A textbook might say, she felt overwhelmed by her responsibilities. That is correct, but you can make the word more reachable by connecting it to your own life. I feel overwhelmed when I have several deadlines in the same week. Now the word is connected to a real emotional experience. Suppose you learn hesitate. Create a sentence. I often hesitate when I need to speak English unexpectedly. Now the word describes your own behavior. Personal language is easier to retrieve because it is connected to your memories, opinions, routines, and goals. Another powerful practice is to describe what you see without translating. Look around your room. Do not name every object like a vocabulary test. Create relationships. The window is open because the room feels warm. There are several papers on the desk that I need to organize. My phone is charging next to the computer. The light is reflecting on the wall. I can hear traffic outside. This trains your mind to move directly from observation to English. You can also narrate actions. I'm filling a glass with water. I'm moving the chair closer to the table. I'm looking for a document. I've just received a message. I need to finish this before dinner. The sentences do not need to be impressive. Their value comes from directness. You are teaching your mind. Meaning can become English without passing through a complete translation. Another useful exercise is the idea map. Choose a topic, such as working from home. Do not write full sentences in your native language. Write simple English branches: benefits, flexibility, no travel, quiet environment, problems, isolation, distractions, communication. Personal experience: more focus in the morning, less energy in afternoon. Opinion: useful for some jobs, not ideal for everyone. Now speak using the map. You are not translating a prepared speech. You are looking at meaning and creating English around it. This is much closer to real conversation. When you do not know a word, avoid stopping the entire message. Describe it. Suppose you forget the word receipt. You can say, the small paper they give you after you pay. Suppose you forget appointment. You can say, a planned time to meet a doctor or another professional. Suppose you forget neighborhood. You can say, the area around the place where I live. This ability is called paraphrasing, and it is one of the most important fluency skills. Some learners think fluency means always knowing the exact word. Real fluency often means continuing, even when the exact word is unavailable. You protect the message instead of protecting one missing word. Try this practice. Explain umbrella without using the word. It is something you hold above your head when it rains. Explain password. It is a secret group of letters, numbers, or symbols that gives you access to an account. Explain traffic jam. It is a situation where many cars are moving very slowly or not moving at all. Explain deadline. It is the final time or date by which something must be completed. This practice gives you freedom because one forgotten word can no longer destroy the whole conversation. You should not fight translation with frustration. You should replace it with stronger habits. Build chunks. Attach English to scenes. Create personal examples. Describe your environment. Organize ideas in English keywords. Paraphrase missing vocabulary. The route between meaning and speech becomes shorter. Your mind stops asking, how do I translate this complete sentence? It begins by asking, what is the clearest English I can use for this idea? That question leads to faster, freer communication. Chapter 4. Turn passive English into speaking English. You may recognize thousands of English words and still struggle to use them in conversation. This can feel confusing. You hear a word in a video and understand it immediately. You read it in an article and know exactly what it means. But when you need the same word while speaking, it does not appear. Later, after the conversation has ended, the word suddenly returns. This happens because recognition and retrieval are different abilities. Recognition means that you can identify something when it is presented to you. Retrieval means that you can produce it without seeing or hearing it first. Watching, reading, and listening build recognition. Speaking requires retrieval. If most of your English practice is based on receiving language, your understanding can become much stronger than your ability to produce it. This does not mean your previous study was wasted. It means the next stage of training must change. You need to practice reaching for language. Think of your vocabulary as books in a large library. Passive words are books you recognize when someone places them in front of you. Active words are books you can locate quickly when you need them. Speaking practice teaches your mind where those books are. One effective method is delayed recall. Choose a useful phrase such as, I'm trying to figure out, read it, understand it, and use it in 2 examples. I'm trying to figure out how this program works. I'm trying to figure out the best way to organize my schedule. Then stop looking at the phrase. After 10 minutes, try to produce it again. Later in the day, use it in a new sentence. The next morning, recall it without checking your notes. This is more powerful than reading the phrase 20 times in one sitting, because your mind must repeatedly find it. The small struggle to remember strengthens access. You can also practice rapid category recall. Choose a category such as travel. Give yourself 30 seconds and produce as many related words and phrases as possible. Passport, luggage, flight, departure, arrival, boarding pass, hotel reservation, delayed flight, public transport, tourist attraction, exchange money, miss a connection. Then turn several items into sentences. I always check my passport before leaving home. My flight was delayed because of bad weather. I prefer using public transport when I visit a new city. I once missed a connection because the first flight arrived late. The first part activates vocabulary. The second part turns it into speaking material. Try another category: work, meeting, deadline, project, colleague, responsibility, schedule, promotion, feedback, workload, presentation, client. Now create a short answer. This week, I have a heavy workload because our team is finishing an important project. We have a deadline on Friday, and I still need to prepare a presentation for the client. You are not only listing words, you are learning to connect them under time pressure. Another excellent method is the question chain. Start with one simple question. What do you usually do in the morning? Answer: I usually get up at around 7 and prepare breakfast. Now ask yourself a follow-up question. What do you normally eat? I usually eat eggs and bread, but sometimes I only have fruit. Next question. Why do you sometimes eat less? Because I don't feel very hungry early in the morning. Next question. What happens when you skip breakfast completely? I usually become tired before lunchtime. Next question. Have you tried changing that habit? Yes, I've started preparing something the night before. The question chain forces you to retrieve language continuously. Each answer creates the next direction. This is much more useful for speaking than repeating one memorized paragraph. You can also use the one-word expansion drill. Choose one word. Rain. Create a sentence. It has been raining since early morning. Expand it. It has been raining since early morning, so the roads are becoming crowded. Expand again. It has been raining since early morning, so the roads are becoming crowded, and several people in my office arrived late. One word has grown into a complete situation. Try. Interview. I have a job interview next week. I have a job interview next week, and I'm trying to prepare for the most common questions. I have a job interview next week, and I'm trying to prepare for the most common questions because I sometimes become nervous when I need to describe my experience. This teaches you to develop an idea instead of waiting for a complete answer to appear. Another useful exercise is verbal sorting. Choose a topic and divide your ideas aloud. For example, there are 3 reasons I prefer learning online. First, I can study at my own pace. Second, I can repeat difficult parts. Third, I have access to teachers and materials from different countries. The language is simple, but the organization makes it strong. Try the same method with a challenge. There are 2 things that make speaking difficult for me. The first is that I search for perfect words. The second is that I become nervous when people respond quickly. When you organize ideas into groups, your mind has a route to follow. Retrieval becomes especially difficult when you only practice familiar answers. You may be able to speak fluently about your hobbies because you have answered that question many times. But when someone asks an unexpected question, you freeze. To solve this, practice unpredictable speaking. Write 30 different questions on small pieces of paper or place them in a digital list. Mix easy, personal, abstract, and imaginative questions. For example, what makes a person trustworthy? What is something people often waste? How would your daily life change without the internet? What is a small decision that had a big effect on you? Would you rather have more money or more free time? What is one rule you would change in schools? What do people misunderstand about success? What would you do if you had an extra day every week? Choose one question without preparing. Give yourself 5 seconds to begin and 1 minute to respond. The goal is not to create a perfect answer. The goal is to train flexible access. You can make this exercise more powerful by repeating the same question 3 times in different ways. First answer, speak for 30 seconds using simple language. Second answer, speak for 1 minute and add an example. Third answer, speak again, but organize the response more clearly. Notice what happens. The first answer may feel difficult because you are discovering the idea. The second becomes easier because the idea is now familiar. The third improves because you can focus more attention on language and structure. This shows an important truth. Sometimes you do not freeze because your English is weak. You freeze because you are being asked to create an opinion and express it at the same time. Even in your native language, some questions require thought. Do not confuse the difficulty of the idea with the weakness of your English. You can also build retrieval through retelling. Listen to a short story, interview, or explanation, then close it and retell the main message in your own words. Do not try to repeat every sentence. Ask, who was involved? What happened? Why did it happen? What was the result? What was interesting about it? Suppose you hear a story about someone who missed a flight because they arrived at the wrong airport. You might retell it like this. I heard a story about a man who was traveling for an important meeting. He arrived early, but he later discovered that his flight was leaving from another airport. He tried to reach it by taxi, but there was too much traffic, so he missed the flight. The experience taught him to check every detail before traveling. Retelling requires you to retrieve vocabulary, organize events, and create connections. It develops speaking far more actively than listening alone. Another practice is transformation. Take one sentence and change its time, subject, or situation. Base sentence: I work from home twice a week. Past: I worked from home twice a week in my previous job. Future: I'll probably work from home more often next year. Negative: I don't work from home when I have important meetings. Question: How often do you work from home? Personal explanation: I prefer working from home when I need to concentrate on detailed tasks. Transformation helps language patterns become flexible. You stop memorizing one fixed sentence and begin controlling the structure. Do not measure your speaking vocabulary by the number of words you recognize. Measure it by the language you can reach when you need it. A word becomes truly useful when it can enter your speech. To make that happen, stop only reviewing language. Retrieve it, rebuild it, personalize it, organize it. Use it without looking. Your mind becomes faster at finding the paths it travels regularly. If you want words to appear in conversation, give them regular speaking journeys. Chapter 5: Speak small before you speak big. One reason people freeze is that they try to say too much in the first sentence. They have a large idea, but they believe the first sentence must carry the entire meaning. As a result, the sentence becomes crowded before it even begins. Imagine that you want to explain why you changed your career. Inside your mind, the complete story includes dissatisfaction with your old job, a conversation with a friend, a course you took, financial concerns, family opinions, and your hopes for the future. You attempt to fit everything into one opening. I decided to change my career because although my previous position was stable and I had been working there for several years, I gradually realized that it was not connected to my long-term goals. And after discussing it with different people, before you reach the main point, you become lost. A better beginning is, I changed my career because I wanted more meaningful work. That sentence is complete. Now you can add, my previous job was stable, but I didn't feel that I was growing. Then, I started taking an online course in the evenings. Then, after several months, I decided to move into a new field. Short sentences are not childish. Clear sentences are powerful. You can build complexity after clarity. Think of your answer as a staircase. Each sentence is one step. You do not need to jump directly to the top. A useful technique is sentence layering. Layer 1 is the core message. Layer 2 adds a reason. Layer 3 adds detail. Layer 4 adds an example or result. Question: why do you enjoy traveling? Core: I enjoy traveling because it changes my perspective. Reason: when I visit a new place, I see different ways of living. Detail: I notice how people organize their cities, meals, work, and family life. Example: after one trip, I became more interested in learning languages because I saw how much communication can change an experience. The answer grows naturally. Now try. What is one habit you want to change? Core: I want to stop checking my phone so often. Reason: it interrupts my concentration. Detail: sometimes I open one message and then spend 20 minutes looking at unrelated things. Action: I'm trying to keep my phone in another room while I work. You do not need one advanced sentence. You need a connected sequence. Many learners have been taught to believe that advanced English means long sentences and rare vocabulary. But advanced communication is not the same as complicated communication. A strong speaker knows how to make a difficult idea easy to follow. A weak speaker can hide a simple idea inside unnecessary complexity. Your goal is not to impress the listener with the size of your sentences. Your goal is to guide the listener through your thinking. This becomes especially important when you feel nervous. Nervousness reduces the amount of information you can comfortably manage. If you attempt long grammatical structures under pressure, the chance of losing direction increases. Simple structures protect your fluency. Instead of saying, "Considering the fact that I had not previously experienced such a demanding working environment, adapting to the new position was initially quite challenging for me," you can say, "The new position was difficult at first. I had never worked in such a demanding environment, so I needed time to adjust." The second version is easier to say and easier to understand. This does not mean you should avoid complex grammar forever. It means that complex grammar should serve your message, not control it. Another reason learners freeze is that they reject ordinary vocabulary. They know the word good, but they search for exceptional, remarkable, beneficial, or outstanding. They know problem, but they search for complication, obstacle, difficulty, or challenge. Specific vocabulary can improve your message, but searching for a more impressive word should not stop communication. Use the available word first. You can always clarify. This course was very good. It was practical, clear, and easy to follow. The word good opens the sentence. The details make the meaning precise. You should build what we can call a reliable speaking vocabulary. These are not the most advanced words you know. They are words you can access quickly and use flexibly. For describing experiences, useful, difficult, surprising, stressful, enjoyable, confusing, valuable, disappointing, comfortable, unfamiliar. For describing change, improve, reduce, increase, develop, replace, adjust, continue, avoid, manage, achieve. For explaining reasons, because, since, that's why, the main reason, one factor, as a result. For giving opinions, I think, I feel, I believe, I prefer, I agree, I disagree, it seems, in my view. These words form the foundation of thousands of conversations. Reliable language creates movement. Once the conversation is moving, more specific language can join. Another skill is reducing a complex idea to one headline sentence. Before you explain something, ask, "What is the simplest true version of my point?" Suppose your opinion is about social media. Your full idea may contain privacy, addiction, communication, news, business, and mental health. Your headline sentence could be, "Social media is useful, but people need to use it more consciously." Now choose one direction. The biggest problem is that it can consume time without people noticing. Add an example. Someone may open an app for one message and remain there for an hour, then offer a solution. I think setting specific times for checking it can help. Your answer is focused because the headline sentence gave it a center. Without a center, people often start speaking in several directions at once. They introduce one idea, leave it unfinished, begin another, return to the first, and then forget the original question. Freezing sometimes occurs because your mind is holding too many unfinished branches. Choose one branch. A clear answer does not need to include everything you know. It needs to include enough to answer the question. You can practice headline speaking with daily topics. Topic, exercise, headline. Regular exercise improves both my energy and my concentration. Topic, online learning. Headline. Online learning is convenient, but it requires strong self-discipline. Topic, friendship. Headline. A strong friendship needs honesty and consistent effort. Topic, money. Headline. Money cannot solve every problem, but poor financial habits can create many unnecessary problems. Topic, success. Headline. I think success means building a life that matches your values. After saying the headline, support it with 2 or 3 sentences. This method prevents wandering and gives your mind a stable starting point. You should also become comfortable ending an answer. Some learners continue speaking because they are afraid that stopping will make the response seem weak. They add unnecessary sentences until they make a mistake or lose direction. A complete answer is allowed to end. You can use closing phrases such as, "So that's the main reason. That has been my experience. That's what I'm working on at the moment." So overall, I think it has more advantages than disadvantages. That's probably the biggest change I would make. A clear ending gives the listener a natural place to respond. Conversation is not a speech competition. You do not need to fill every second. Say enough, finish your thought. Allow the other person to enter. Let us practice building an answer from small pieces. Question: should people work fewer hours? Headline: in many jobs, shorter working hours could improve performance. Reason: when people are exhausted, they may spend more time working but produce lower quality results. Example: a focused employee can sometimes complete a task in 4 hours that takes a tired employee an entire day. Balance: however, the system would depend on the type of work and the needs of the business. Conclusion: so I support shorter hours when they are planned carefully. Notice how each sentence has one main responsibility. The first gives the opinion. The second explains the reason. The third makes the reason concrete. The fourth adds balance. The fifth closes the answer. This is controlled speaking. Now practice with a personal question. What helps you stay motivated? Headline: I stay motivated when I can see clear progress. Explanation: large goals can feel distant, so I divide them into smaller targets. Example: if I'm learning a new skill, I record what I practice each day. Result: seeing that record reminds me that small efforts are adding up. Conclusion: that makes it easier for me to continue. Your answer does not need difficult words to sound mature. The organization creates strength. When you freeze, reduce the size of the next task. Do not tell yourself, I must explain this whole subject. Tell yourself, I will give one clear sentence. After that, I will add one reason. Then, I will give one example. Small speaking creates big communication. You do not need to carry the whole message in your first breath. Let the answer unfold. Chapter 6: calm your body so your voice can work. Speaking is not only a mental activity, it is physical. Your breath supports your voice, your jaw shapes sounds, your tongue moves rapidly. Your shoulders, posture, facial muscles, and breathing rhythm all influence the way speech feels. When you become nervous, your body changes. You may hold your breath without noticing. Your shoulders rise, your throat feels tight, your mouth becomes dry. You begin speaking too quickly because you want to escape the situation. Then the fast pace creates more mistakes. The mistakes create more worry, and the worry makes your body even more tense. You cannot always think your way out of this cycle. Sometimes you need to change the physical state first. Before answering, release your breath. Many people take a large breath when they are nervous, but they do not fully breathe out. They keep collecting tension. A slow exhale can help you begin more steadily. You do not need to make the movement dramatic. The other person may not even notice. Breathe out gently, relax your shoulders, and begin with a familiar opening. I would say, from my experience, the first thing that comes to mind is, your first sentence should be slightly slower than your nervous mind wants it to be. The beginning sets the rhythm. If you rush through the first 5 words, you may continue rushing. If you begin at a controlled pace, your mind receives the message that you have time. Try saying this sentence quickly. I think the main reasons is that people don't have enough time. The words lose their shape. Now say it in meaningful groups. I think the main reason is that people don't have enough time. The pause after reason gives both you and the listener space. Good speaking has rhythm. It is not one unbroken stream. Divide your speech into thought groups. For example, when I first started learning English, I focused mostly on grammar, but later I realized that I also needed regular speaking practice. Each group carries one piece of meaning. Thought groups reduce pressure because you do not need to manage the entire sentence at once. You say one group, take a small breath, and continue. Another physical habit is relaxing the mouth before practice. When people are tense, they may move their lips and jaw less freely. Speech becomes quiet, unclear, or difficult. Before speaking practice, read several sentences with slightly exaggerated mouth movement. Do not shout. Simply allow the sounds to become clear. For example, I want to communicate clearly. I don't need to rush my answer. I can pause and continue. My message matters more than perfect pronunciation. Then speak normally while keeping some of that freedom. Your speaking voice may also become weak when confidence drops. You start a sentence with reasonable volume and then disappear at the end. I think the best option is probably, the final words become too quiet because you are uncertain. Practice finishing the sentence with the same level of energy you used at the beginning. Say, I think the best option is to wait until tomorrow. Keep tomorrow clear. Say, the main reason I chose this course was its practical focus. Keep practical focus clear. The final part often contains important information. Do not abandon it. Posture can influence how ready you feel to speak. If your chest is closed, your head is down, and your body is pulled inward, your voice may feel restricted. You do not need to create an unnatural, powerful pose. Sit or stand in a balanced way. Allow your chest to remain open. Keep your head comfortable. Let your hands rest naturally or move gently while you speak. Some learners become physically frozen because they believe they must remain perfectly still. Natural movement can support expression. You may use your hand to show size, direction, contrast, or sequence. You may nod while listening. You may slightly change your facial expression to match your meaning. Communication involves the whole person. Eye contact can also create pressure, especially when you are searching for words. You do not need to stare at the listener continuously. Natural speakers look at the other person, look away briefly while thinking, and return when they continue. You can say, let me think about that, look slightly away for a moment, then return. I would probably choose the second option. This is normal. The goal is connection, not constant visual control. You should also train yourself to tolerate the sound of your own English voice. Some learners rarely hear themselves speak for more than a few seconds. When they record their voice, it feels unfamiliar. They become highly critical. They notice their accent, pauses, and mistakes, but they fail to notice that the message is understandable. Record 1 minute of English every day. Do not immediately listen with the goal of finding every problem. First ask, was my main message clear? Did I continue after a pause? Did I complete my ideas? Did my voice remain audible? Only after that should you choose one detail to improve. Perhaps you spoke too quickly. Perhaps several words were unclear. Perhaps your voice became quiet at the end of sentences. Choose one focus for the next recording. Do not attack your entire voice at once. Confidence grows when improvement feels possible. You can also use a physical reset during a live conversation. Suppose you notice that you are rushing. You can pause and say, let me explain that more clearly. During the pause, breathe out and restart at a slower pace. Suppose your mouth becomes tense and the sentence feels difficult. Stop after a complete thought. Take a sip of water if one is available, then continue. Another point I wanted to mention is, suppose you lose your voice because you feel embarrassed by a mistake. Correct it briefly. Sorry, I mean next Thursday, not this Thursday. Then continue the message. Your body learns from what you do after discomfort. If every difficult moment causes you to stop completely, your body begins treating speaking as danger. If you pause, recover, and continue, your body learns that difficulty can be managed. This lesson is extremely important. Confidence is not the absence of nervousness. Confidence is the knowledge that nervousness does not control the final result. You may feel your heart beating faster and still answer the question. You may forget a word and still explain the idea. You may make a mistake and still complete the conversation. That is real confidence. You are not waiting for your body to feel perfect. You are teaching it that speaking is safe enough to continue. Create a short pre-speaking routine. Before a lesson, meeting, call, interview, or conversation, do not spend the final minute reading difficult grammar rules. That may fill your mind with extra monitoring. Instead, prepare your speaking system. Release your breath, relax your shoulders and jaw. Say 3 familiar opening phrases aloud. Answer 1 easy question. Remind yourself of one main goal. Communicate one clear idea at a time. This prepares you for action. You can also choose a physical anchor. An anchor is a small action that reminds you to return to control. You might gently press your thumb and finger together. You might place both feet firmly on the floor. You might slowly lower your shoulders. Connect that action with a sentence. I have time to build my answer. Practice the anchor during calm speaking sessions. Then it will be easier to use when pressure appears. Your voice is not separate from your body. When the body is rushing, the voice rushes. When the body becomes rigid, speech becomes harder. When you create space in your breathing and movement, you create space in your language. You do not need to fight your nervous system. Guide it. Slow the first sentence. Speak in thought groups. Finish your words clearly. Use natural movement. Recover physically after mistakes. A calm body does not guarantee perfect English. It gives your English a better place to operate. Chapter 7. Keep speaking when you do not understand everything. Many learners freeze before they even begin answering because they are not completely sure what the other person said. Perhaps the speaker used an unfamiliar word. Perhaps they spoke quickly. Perhaps there was background noise. Perhaps you understood the general topic, but missed one important detail. At that moment, you may face two fears. The first fear is misunderstanding the question. The second fear is revealing that you did not understand. Some learners choose silence because they believe asking for clarification will make them look weak. Others guess the meaning and give an answer that does not match the question. Both reactions increase stress. Strong communication does not require perfect listening. It requires good repair skills. Repair skills are the expressions and actions you use when communication becomes unclear. Native speakers use them constantly. They say, "Sorry, what was that? Do you mean today or tomorrow? Which one are you referring to? Could you explain what you mean by that?" So you're saying that the meeting has been moved? These are normal parts of conversation. You should prepare several levels of clarification. The first level is simple repetition. Could you say that again? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat the last part? The second level is slower or clearer repetition. Could you say that a little more slowly? Could you repeat the name? Could you say the number again? The third level is rephrasing. Could you explain that in another way? What do you mean by flexible in this situation? Could you give me an example? The fourth level is confirmation. Do you mean that we should finish it today? Are you asking whether I agree with the decision? So the problem started after the update, correct? These levels give you choices. You do not need to say only, "I don't understand." You can identify the specific part you need. For example, "I understood that the schedule changed, but I didn't catch the new time." This is clear and confident. Or, "I know you're asking about my previous job, but could you repeat the second part of the question?" Again, you show what you understood and request only the missing information. This keeps the conversation efficient. Another powerful skill is listening for the center of the question. In real conversation, you may not catch every word, but you can often identify the main direction. Suppose someone says, "With the way technology is changing so quickly, do you think traditional classrooms will still be necessary in the future?" You may not process every part, but you catch, "Technology is changing. Traditional classrooms, necessary in the future." The central question is, will traditional classrooms still be necessary? You can begin, "Yes, I think they will still be necessary, although their role may change." You do not need a perfect recording of every word to respond meaningfully. Train yourself to listen for content words, the important nouns, verbs, adjectives, and question words. Consider, what are some of the biggest challenges young people face when they enter the job market? Keywords, biggest challenges, young people, enter the job market. Your answer can begin. One major challenge is that many employers want experience, even from people applying for entry-level positions. You have entered the conversation. Another useful listening habit is to predict the type of answer required. Question words provide direction. Why requires a reason. How may require a process, method, or description. When requires time. Where requires a place. Which requires a choice. What happened requires events. What do you think requires an opinion. How often requires frequency. What would you do requires an imagined action. If you catch the question type and the main topic, you can often begin even when some language was missed. You should also learn to respond to the part you understood. Imagine someone makes a long comment about work-life balance and asks several connected questions. You may say, "There are several points there. Let me respond first to the question about working hours." This gives your answer a clear focus. Or, "I'm not sure I caught the final question, but regarding remote work, I think it can be very effective when communication is well organized." You remain honest while still contributing. Conversation does not always require a perfect answer to the exact complete sentence. It requires cooperative movement. Sometimes you understand the words, but not the cultural meaning. A person may use humor, an idiom, or an indirect expression. You can ask, "Is that a common expression? Are you saying that seriously, or are you joking? Does that mean the situation is difficult? I haven't heard that phrase before. What does it mean?" These questions can improve the conversation rather than damage it. Many people enjoy explaining expressions from their language or culture. Your curiosity can replace embarrassment. You also need to become comfortable with partial understanding during group conversations. In a group, speakers may interrupt each other, change direction quickly, and refer to information you do not know. Do not try to understand every sentence equally. Follow the main subject. Notice repeated words. Observe reactions. Wait for an entry point. You can enter by connecting to the latest clear idea. That happened to me once as well. I agree with the point about time management. I had a different experience. Can I ask something about what you just said? The example about traveling reminded me of something. You do not need to understand the entire history of the conversation to make one relevant contribution. Group speaking becomes less frightening when you stop waiting for the perfect moment. Perfect moments are rare. Look for a useful opening, not a perfect one. Another challenge is responding when the other person speaks quickly. You may understand the first sentence, lose the middle, and catch the end. Instead of pretending, say, "You mentioned that the project was delayed. What caused the delay?" You use the part you caught to guide the conversation. Or, "I caught the point about the new system, but I missed what you said about the deadline." This is much stronger than smiling silently while feeling lost. You can practice repair skills through simulated confusion. Ask a partner or teacher to speak normally and occasionally include an unfamiliar detail, number, name, or phrase. Your job is not to understand perfectly. Your job is to repair the gap. Practice saying, "Did you say 15 or 50? Which department are you referring to? Could you spell the name? When you say soon, do you mean today or later this week? Could you give me a little more context?" The more often you use these expressions in practice, the less embarrassing they feel in real situations. You should also practice summarizing what you heard. After someone explains something, say, "So, if I understand correctly, you want me to finish the first section today and send the rest tomorrow." This gives the speaker a chance to confirm or correct you. In personal conversation, "So you moved there for work, but you decided to stay because you liked the city." In a lesson, "So the main difference is that one form describes a finished action and the other connects the action to the present." Summarizing is not only a listening tool, it is a speaking tool. It gives you clear material to say and reduces misunderstanding. Remember that communication is not a private examination being performed on you, it is a shared activity. Both people have a responsibility to create understanding. You are allowed to ask, you are allowed to confirm. You are allowed to slow the exchange, you are allowed to say which part you missed. The goal is not to hide every difficulty. The goal is to manage difficulty without losing your voice. When you do not understand everything, do not disappear from the conversation. Use the information you have. Repair what is missing. Confirm the direction. Then respond one clear idea at a time. Chapter 8. Recover from mistakes without losing momentum. A mistake becomes dangerous when you treat it like the end of the conversation. You say one wrong word, use the wrong tense, or mispronounce something. Immediately, your attention leaves the message. You begin replaying the mistake inside your mind. Why did I say that? That grammar was wrong. They must think my English is terrible. While you're analyzing the previous sentence, the conversation continues. The other person says something new, but you do not fully hear it because your mind is still behind. One small mistake has now created a much larger communication problem. Confident speakers are not people who never make mistakes. They are people who recover quickly. Recovery is a skill. The first type of recovery is immediate self-correction. You say, I went there next week. Sorry, I mean last week. She works in the finance department. We discussed it yesterday. We discussed it yesterday. The correction is brief, then you continue. Do not create a long apology. You do not need to say, I'm so sorry, my grammar is very bad. I always make this mistake. I know I should use the past tense. That apology creates more interruption than the original error. Correct, continue, and return to the message. The second type of recovery is restarting the sentence. Sometimes the structure becomes confused halfway through. Instead of forcing the broken sentence to continue, stop and rebuild it. You can say, let me start that again. What I meant to say was, let me explain it more clearly. I'm going to say that in a simpler way. For example, the company that I was working for changed. Let me start that again. I left the company because the working conditions had changed. The restart sounds controlled because you made a clear decision. You did not remain trapped inside the original structure. The third type of recovery is replacing a difficult expression. You begin with language that is too complex. The reason for my dissatisfaction was primarily connected to. You feel yourself losing control. Simplify. Let me put that more simply. I was unhappy because I didn't have enough responsibility. This is not failure. It is communication intelligence. You noticed that the first route was becoming difficult, so you chose a clearer one. The fourth type of recovery is paraphrasing a forgotten word. You say, I need to renew the official document that allows me to travel internationally, my passport. Even if the word does not return, the meaning is already clear. Or, the kitchen has a machine that removes smoke and smells. I don't know the exact word in English. The conversation can continue. The other person may provide the word, and now you will remember it more strongly because it appeared in a real need. The fifth type is correcting meaning rather than grammar. Perhaps your sentence was grammatically correct, but the listener understood the wrong idea. Say, that's not exactly what I meant. I may not have explained that clearly. What I'm trying to say is, I don't mean that it is completely useless. I mean that it is not useful in every situation. This is an advanced communication skill. Your responsibility is not only to produce correct sentences, it is to protect the intended meaning. You also need to understand which mistakes deserve correction. Not every mistake requires interruption. Suppose you say, my brother lives in another city. The meaning is clear. If you notice the error and can correct it immediately without losing your direction, you may say, my brother lives in another city. But if you are in the middle of an important explanation and the listener understands you, you may continue. Later, during review, you can work on third-person verb forms. During real communication, correct mistakes that change meaning, create confusion, or are easy to repair. Do not stop every sentence to repair every small detail. Imagine driving and stopping the car every 10 meters to examine the tires. You would never reach your destination. Speaking needs continuity. This does not mean accuracy is unimportant. It means accuracy grows more effectively when correction is timed well. After a conversation or recording, choose several repeated errors. Perhaps you often say, people are, I agree, I didn't go, I have 20 years. Work on those patterns during focused study. Create correct examples. People are becoming more aware of the problem. I agree with that idea. I didn't go to the meeting. I am 20 years old. Then use each form in several new sentences. The next conversation becomes a new opportunity to apply the correction. This is a better system than trying to monitor every grammar rule at the same time. You can keep a small speaking error notebook, but the notebook should not become a collection of shame. Use 3 parts. First, write the sentence you said. Second, write a clearer or more accurate version. Third, create a new personal example. For instance, original. I have been working here for 2 years. Improved. I have been working here for 2 years. New example. I have been learning English regularly for 6 months. This turns the error into a reusable pattern. You should also record successful recoveries. For example, I forgot the word shelf, but I described it and continued. I misunderstood the question, asked for clarification, and answered correctly. I made a tense mistake but corrected it without panicking. I lost my sentence and successfully restarted. Why record these moments? Because confidence requires evidence. If you only remember your mistakes, your mind creates an unfair picture of your speaking ability. You begin believing that every conversation is a failure, even when you managed several difficult moments successfully. Recovery deserves recognition. Another harmful habit is apologizing for your English before speaking. You may say, "My English is very bad. Sorry, I'm not fluent. I probably won't explain this well." These statements may feel like protection. You believe that if you criticize yourself first, the other person cannot disappoint you. But the habit weakens your position before the conversation begins. You do not need to announce every insecurity. Begin with the message. If communication becomes difficult, manage the specific difficulty. Instead of, "Sorry, my English is terrible," say, "I'm looking for the right word," or, "Let me explain that another way." These statements describe the moment without attacking your entire ability. Your English is not one fixed object that is either good or bad. It is a collection of skills developing at different speeds. You may understand advanced videos but struggle with spontaneous responses. You may speak clearly about work but lack vocabulary for politics. You may write accurately but need more pronunciation practice. Be specific. Specific problems can be trained. Global self-judgments create helplessness. Replace "I am bad at English" with "I need more practice answering unexpected questions." Replace "I can't speak" with "I speak better when I slow down and organize my first sentence." Replace "My pronunciation is terrible" with "I need to improve the clarity of certain sounds and word endings." The new language gives you direction. You should also expect some conversations to feel worse than others. Fluency is not exactly the same every day. Your energy, stress level, sleep, familiarity with the topic, relationship with the listener, and environment can all affect your performance. One difficult conversation does not erase your progress. A professional athlete can have a poor performance without losing all their training. A musician can make mistakes during one performance without forgetting how to play. You can have a day when words feel slower. Your job is to respond constructively, not dramatically. Ask, what made that situation difficult? Was the topic unfamiliar? Was I rushing? Did I lack a useful phrase? Did I understand the question? What can I practice before a similar situation? This turns disappointment into information. Mistakes should create adjustments, not identity. The final recovery skill is humor. You do not need to make jokes about yourself constantly, but sometimes a light reaction reduces pressure. If you accidentally use the wrong word and create a funny meaning, you can smile and say, "That was definitely not the word I wanted." Then correct it and continue. The conversation does not need to become a serious emergency. Language learning includes unusual sentences, unexpected meanings, and awkward moments. Some of those moments will become good memories. Your goal is not to move through English without ever becoming uncomfortable. Your goal is to become difficult to stop. A missing word does not stop you. A grammar mistake does not stop you. A confusing sentence does not stop you. A misunderstanding does not stop you. You repair, rebuild, and continue. That is how freedom enters your speaking. Chapter 9. Practice the pressure you want to handle. Many learners practice English in conditions that are too comfortable. They read sentences they have already seen. They answer questions they prepared yesterday. They speak alone with unlimited time. They pause the video whenever they need help. This practice can improve knowledge, but it may not prepare them for real conversation. Real conversation includes uncertainty. You do not know the exact question. You do not control the other person's speed. You may need to respond while being observed. The topic can change suddenly. You may need to clarify, disagree, explain, or tell a story without preparation. If you only practice safe English, pressure will continue to feel unfamiliar. The solution is not to enter the most frightening situation immediately. The solution is to build a gradual pressure ladder. At the first level, speak alone without a timer. Choose a topic and speak for 1 minute. You may pause, you may restart, you may check a word after you finish. The purpose is to become comfortable producing your own sentences. At the second level, add a timer. Choose a question and give yourself 5 seconds to begin. Speak for 60 seconds without stopping the timer. If you forget a word, paraphrase it. If you make a mistake, correct it briefly or continue. The timer creates manageable pressure. At the third level, record yourself. The presence of the recording button changes the experience. You become more aware that the speech can be heard again. Do not restart every time you make a mistake. Complete the recording. This teaches you to protect continuity. At the fourth level, use unpredictable questions. Ask a friend to send you questions without warning, or use a random question list. You should not prepare the content. Your goal is to organize an answer in real time. At the fifth level, send voice messages. A voice message includes a real listener, but you still have some control. You can think briefly before pressing the record. Set one rule: do not record the same message more than twice. If you allow 20 attempts, you may create a performance that does not represent real speaking. At the sixth level, have a short audio call. Begin with 10 or 15 minutes. Choose a general theme, but do not prepare complete answers. At the seventh level, join a video call, group discussion, class, meeting, or public conversation. The ladder should challenge you without overwhelming you. You may remain at one level for several days or weeks. Progress is not measured by how quickly you reach the top. It is measured by how much more normal speaking begins to feel. You need a complete practice system, not random motivation. Let us build one. The first part is daily activation. Spend 10 minutes bringing English into your mouth. Read a short passage aloud for 2 minutes. Focus on rhythm and clear endings. Then speak for 3 minutes about your day. After that, answer 2 unexpected questions. Finally, use 3 recently learned phrases in personal sentences. This routine is short enough to repeat regularly. The second part is deep speaking practice. 2 or 3 times each week, spend 20 to 30 minutes on one focused activity. You might retell a story, practice an interview, explain a process, debate a question, describe a problem, or give a short presentation. The third part is real interaction. At least once each week, use English with another person in a situation where you cannot completely control the conversation. This can be an online exchange, a lesson, a call, a discussion group, a work conversation, or a community event. Without interaction, you may become skilled at private speaking, but remain afraid of response. Conversation requires receiving another person's energy and continuing. One strong training activity is the 1-minute challenge. Choose a topic and speak for 1 minute without long silence. Possible topics include a decision you are proud of, a place you would like to visit, a useful lesson you learned recently, a problem in your city, a habit people should avoid, a person who influenced you, a product you would recommend, a change you want to make. After the first minute, listen to the recording. Do not transcribe everything. Identify one strength and one improvement. Strength: my answer had a clear beginning and ending. Improvement: I repeated the word really too many times. Repeat the topic once, focusing on that improvement. Then stop. Do not record it 10 times. The goal is not to create a perfect performance. The goal is to make one useful adjustment. Another activity is the pressure interview. Prepare 20 questions connected to your goals. For job English, tell me about yourself. What is your greatest professional strength? Describe a challenge you handled. Why are you interested in this position? How do you manage deadlines? For social English, what do you usually do on weekends? How do you know the host? What brought you to this event? What kind of films do you enjoy? Have you visited this place before? For academic English, what is the main argument of your research? Why did you choose this subject? What evidence supports your conclusion? What was the most difficult part of the project? What would you investigate next? Ask someone to select questions randomly. You have 5 seconds to begin each response. The purpose is not memorization, it is readiness. You should also practice changing direction. Real conversations do not always follow your planned answer. Suppose you are speaking about travel and the other person asks, "Was it expensive?" You need to leave your original story and answer the new question. Practice interruptions with a partner. Begin explaining a topic. Ask your partner to interrupt with relevant questions. For example, last year I visited a small coastal city. Partner, how long did you stay? I stayed for 4 days. I originally planned to stay for a week, but... Partner, why did you leave early? The weather became very bad, so several activities were cancelled. This develops flexibility. You learn that interruption does not destroy your answer. It changes the path. Another useful exercise is opinion switching. First, speak in support of an idea. Then speak against it. Topic: working from home is better than working in an office. Support: it saves travel time, gives people more flexibility, and can improve concentration. Oppose: it may reduce teamwork, create communication problems, and make employees feel isolated. This forces you to access different language and prevents memorized thinking. Try: university education should be free. Children should not use social media. People should change careers more often. Technology makes life better. Success depends mainly on hard work. The purpose is not to discover your true opinion. The purpose is to build mental flexibility. You can also practice emotional variety. Say the same sentence with different attitudes. I didn't expect that. Say it with surprise. Say it with disappointment. Say it with amusement. Say it with concern. English speaking is not only grammar and vocabulary. Meaning also comes through tone. When you are nervous, your voice may become flat because all your attention is on correctness. Practicing expression helps your language sound more alive. Another activity is real-world simulation. Create the conditions of a future situation. For a restaurant, ask about the menu, explain a dietary preference, order food, report a problem, and request the bill. For travel, check in, ask about luggage, explain a delay, request directions, and confirm a reservation. For work, give an update, ask for clarification, disagree politely, explain a mistake, and suggest a solution. For healthcare, describe a problem, explain when it started, answer questions, and confirm instructions. For social conversation, introduce yourself, ask follow-up questions, share an opinion, tell a short story, and end the conversation politely. Do not only learn vocabulary for these situations. Perform the complete interaction. Your mind needs to experience the movement from one stage to another. You should also introduce environmental pressure. Once you feel comfortable speaking in a silent room, practice with soft background noise, stand instead of sitting, speak while walking slowly. Record in a different location. Join a conversation when you have not spent 30 minutes preparing. The goal is to make your English less dependent on perfect conditions. Real life will not always give you silence, preparation, and complete concentration. However, pressure training must remain intelligent. Do not repeatedly enter situations that leave you feeling defeated. The challenge should be slightly above your current comfort level, not far beyond it. After each session, ask, what did I handle well? Where did I lose control? What phrase would have helped? What is the next small challenge? This creates steady progress. Confidence does not come from telling yourself that you are amazing. It comes from collecting experiences that prove you can act under pressure. You answered without preparing. You asked for clarification. You continued after a mistake. You spoke for 1 minute. You joined the call. You expressed disagreement. You explained a difficult idea. Each experience becomes evidence. Eventually, a real conversation no longer feels like a completely unknown event. Your mind recognizes the pressure because you have trained inside smaller versions of it. Do not only practice the English you want to know, practice the situations you want to handle. Chapter 10. Build the identity of a free speaker. A learner asks, do I know enough English? A speaker asks, what do I want to communicate? That difference may appear small, but it changes everything. When your identity is only English learner, you may enter every conversation searching for evidence that you are not ready. You notice every missing word. You compare yourself with people who are more advanced. You wait for permission to participate. You think your role is to practice until one future day when you finally become a speaker. But you are already a speaker whenever you use English to create meaning. You may be a developing speaker. You may need more vocabulary. You may make frequent mistakes. Your responses may be slower than you want. Still, the act of speaking is not reserved for the future. You need to change the way you define success. Success is not, I made no mistakes. Success is, I expressed my main idea. Success is not, I sounded exactly like a native speaker. Success is, I stayed present in the conversation. Success is not, I knew every word. Success is, I found another way when a word was missing. Success is not, I felt no nervousness. Success is, I spoke even though I felt nervous. These definitions create a stronger identity because they focus on actions you can control. Confidence becomes unstable when it depends on other people's reactions. One listener may be patient, another may appear distracted. One person may understand your accent easily. Another may ask you to repeat something. Someone may praise your English, someone else may not comment at all. You cannot build your speaking identity on every face you see. You need internal standards. Did I listen actively? Did I answer the question? Did I ask for clarification when necessary? Did I continue after difficulty? Did I communicate respectfully? Did I learn something from the experience? These questions create stable progress. You should also discover your natural English personality. Some learners try to copy a speaker whose personality is completely different from their own. They copy the speed, expressions, humor, energy, and voice. This can be useful for pronunciation practice, but it should not erase your own style. You do not need to become a different person in English. If you are thoughtful in your native language, you can be thoughtful in English. If you enjoy humor, develop ways to express humor. If you are direct, learn respectful directness. If you are warm and curious, build strong follow-up questions. If you are calm, you do not need to become loud to sound confident. Confidence is not one personality type. A quiet person can speak confidently. A slow speaker can communicate powerfully. A person with an accent can be clear, intelligent, and persuasive. Your goal is not to perform someone else's identity. Your goal is to make your real personality accessible in English. To do that, you need language connected to your actual life. Practice telling your stories. How did you choose your career? What challenge changed you? What kind of environment helps you work? What values matter to you? What are you trying to build? What has surprised you recently? What do you believe people misunderstand? What lesson did you learn too late? These questions develop your speaking voice because the answers belong to you. You are not only repeating textbook situations, you are building language around your experiences and beliefs. A free speaker also knows how to enter, maintain, and leave a conversation. To enter, you can use, "Can I add something? That reminds me of, I had a similar experience. I'm curious about one point. I see it a little differently." To maintain the conversation, ask genuine follow-up questions. What happened after that? How did you make that decision? Was that difficult at first? What do you mean by that? Would you do it the same way again? To leave politely, "It was great talking with you. I should get back to work, but I enjoyed our conversation. I need to leave in a moment, but thank you for explaining that. Let's continue this another time." Knowing how to manage the full conversation gives you more control. You no longer feel trapped inside an interaction with no clear beginning or ending. Now let us create a 30-day confidence reset. During the first week, focus on movement. Speak English aloud every day for at least 10 minutes. Use easy subjects. Describe your day, your surroundings, your plans, and your opinions. Do not measure vocabulary level. Measure whether you continued. Your goal is to reduce the distance between thought and speech. During the second week, focus on structure. Use point, reason, example. Use situation, action, result. Use past, present, future. Answer unexpected questions with one of these patterns. Your goal is to stop creating every answer without a map. During the third week, focus on interaction. Send voice messages. Have short calls. Ask follow-up questions. Request clarification. Practice agreeing and disagreeing. Your goal is to become comfortable with another person influencing the conversation. During the fourth week, focus on pressure and recovery. Use timers. Answer difficult questions. Join longer conversations. Record without restarting. Practice recovering from mistakes. Your goal is not perfect performance. Your goal is proof that you can manage imperfect moments. At the end of each day, write one sentence. Today I spoke English when. Complete it honestly. Today I spoke English when I explained my morning routine. Today I spoke English when I sent a voice message. Today I spoke English when I answered a question without preparing. Today I spoke English when I forgot a word and described it. Today I spoke English when I corrected myself and continued. After 30 days, you will have 30 pieces of evidence. This evidence changes the story you tell yourself. Instead of, I always freeze, you can say, I sometimes freeze, but I know how to restart. Instead of, I can only speak when I prepare. You can say, I am learning to answer unexpected questions. Instead of, I lose all my English under pressure. You can say, I can use simple structures to bring my words back. Your internal language matters because you listen to it before every conversation. Do not use false motivation. Do not say, I will speak perfectly. Say something believable and useful. I can begin with one sentence. I can ask for time. I can explain a missing word. I can correct myself. I can slow down. I can stay in the conversation. These statements are powerful because they are connected to skills. You should also stop waiting for a dramatic breakthrough. Confidence is often built quietly. One day, you answer a question without translating. Another day, you notice that your first sentence came faster. Later, you make a mistake and continue without emotional collapse. Then you join a conversation you would have avoided before. The changes may feel small while they are happening. Together, they create a new speaking identity. You become someone who participates. You become someone who can handle uncertainty. You become someone who does not need perfect language to express a real thought. There will still be difficult days. You may meet a person whose accent is unfamiliar. You may face a topic outside your vocabulary. You may feel tired, nervous, or unprepared. Freedom does not mean every conversation becomes easy. Freedom means difficulty no longer removes your ability to act. You know how to begin. You know how to simplify. You know how to buy time. You know how to clarify. You know how to paraphrase. You know how to recover. You know how to continue. That is the difference between confidence as a feeling and confidence as a system. A feeling can disappear. A system remains available. When nervousness appears, use the system. Release your breath. Choose one opening. Give one clear point. Add a reason. Use an example. Ask for clarification when necessary. Correct briefly. Continue. The person listening to you does not need a perfect performance. They need access to your meaning. Your experiences, knowledge, humor, questions, values, and opinions deserve to enter the conversation. English is not a wall standing between you and the world. It is a tool you are learning to use. Do not wait until the tool is perfect before building something with it. Use it now. Use it imperfectly. Use it repeatedly. Use it to connect. Every real conversation is not a final exam. It is another step toward becoming the speaker you are already building. The next time your mind goes blank, do not attack yourself and do not run from the moment. Release your breath, use one familiar opening, and express one simple idea. You do not need the whole answer before you begin. You do not need perfect grammar to remain in the conversation. Confidence grows every time you pause, recover, and continue. Your English is already inside you, but it needs space to move. Stop waiting to feel completely ready. Begin speaking with the words you have today, and your voice will become stronger every time you use it.